Many people in Hong Kong have employment visas for many years in a row, and then something takes them overseas to work for a short or a long duration. So the question is, will that break your continuity of ordinary residence for the purposes of the right of abode after 7 years? My daughter is employed in my company and has been for the past 3 years or so. She recently received approval for an extension of her employment visa for 2 years. As a company, we'd like to send her overseas to work, but she'd like to continue to build up her time to eventually be eligible for permanent residency. She'd come back here regularly for consultations, etc., but in aggregate, not a very long time. Me and my wife are permanent residents and have been for about 10 years now. My question is, how long does she need to spend in Hong Kong to keep up her eligibility for PR status, even though she's overseas on this assignment? She's been a full-time employee, has a bank account and has been paying tax and the like, and has a record as of up to that date. She rents an apartment too, but that would need to lapse once she's away on this assignment. She could use our address here if required. The test for approval for the right of abode is that you need to show you've been continuously and ordinarily resident in Hong Kong for a period of not less than 7 years. And in that time, any absences from Hong Kong need to have been of a merely temporary nature, as evidenced by what you leave behind to return back to at the end of each temporary stay abroad, whether that temporary stay is of long or short duration. Moreover, you need to show that you have become settled in Hong Kong all throughout that time and certainly at the point of making your application. So, in this particular case, if you are planning to spend time away from Hong Kong in pursuit of your Hong Kong employer's legitimate business interests overseas, and your Hong Kong contract is maintained, and the only reason that you're being sent overseas is because your employer is insisting on it, then as long as you create the necessary paper arrangements to show and demonstrate clearly after 7 years that this act of going to work temporarily overseas, even if it's for a reasonably lengthy time, doesn't break your continuity of ordinary residence. Now, because you're going to have a continuing employment agreement in Hong Kong that's actually being executed outside of Hong Kong, the expectation is that you will return back to Hong Kong on at least some occasions during the time that you're away, because you're maintaining your connections to Hong Kong. You have to respond to requests for meetings of your employers. You need to deal with matters in Hong Kong that are directly related to your employment, which, as I say, is based in Hong Kong but currently is being executed overseas. So as long as you have a profile that sees your employment in Hong Kong continuing, you're still reporting your tax situation to the Inland Revenue Department here. As far as you can maintain the vestiges of an ordinary life that you can return back to at the end of this temporary stay abroad, those things tend not to break your continuity of ordinary residence. And a key acid sort of test in this respect is make sure that you come back to Hong Kong on at least one occasion every 6 months. Maintain your ties in that fashion. And as long as your documentation speaks to the reality that it is just a temporary assignment abroad, origined as a result of your employer directing you to go and do this work overseas, and all the vestiges of your ordinary life in Hong Kong are maintained throughout that time. Even if you spend a long time away in pursuit of those employment interests overseas, you'll find that that doesn't normally break your continuity of ordinary residence. Particularly if you have family members that are back in Hong Kong, in this regard your spouse and children. If they're maintaining their lives here, this is pretty clear evidence that you haven't abandoned your settlement as a result of you going off to in this instance, I think it was Europe, to undertake this employment.